911, where's your emergency?
Uptown Berkeley, I heard what sounded to be like a gunshot while driving through town.
Okay, we'll have an officer take it for you.
He's dead. He's dead. I think he's dead.
Sir, listen to me, sir. Do not touch him. Do not touch him.
The male appears to be dead, but the shooter ran inside. There's an active shooter inside the building.
Minutes after this 911 call, police arrived at the Executive Manor apartment complex and found a white male lying face down on the wheelchair ramp just outside the entrance to the building. He had no pulse and was declared dead at the scene. Officers immediately gained entry into the building and swept through each floor but couldn't locate the shooter. As soon as the building was cleared, police secured the crime scene and detectives were called in to begin investigating. The victim was identified as 33-year-old Joshua Webb. Josh was a local in Beckley, West Virginia, and fathered a young boy. He supported his family by working at a restaurant and doing construction work with his father. He spent most of his free time raising his young son and being around his family. Upon closer inspection, it was determined that Josh was shot in his face with a small caliber weapon, but after a thorough search of the crime scene, police couldn't find any shell casings. This meant one of two things. Either the suspect picked up the casings after firing their weapon, or they used a revolver, which is known to not eject shell casings like other firearms. Police couldn't immediately locate any witnesses, and there were no cameras on the outside of the building. There was, however, one camera installed inside the building lobby that could have possibly captured something of interest. Detectives started reaching out to the building's management to try and gain access to the footage. As the crime scene was being processed, investigators would get their first break in the case. A man walked into the local police station just minutes after the shooting and identified himself as Marshall Ratliff. He claims to have witnessed the shooting and is eager to provide information to the police.
All right, so your first name is Marshall?
Marshall.
Okay.
Last name's Ratliff.
The best thing I can tell you is, if you could just tell me from the beginning to the end.
Marshall tells detectives that he had spent the evening with his roommate, 38-year-old Angus Moody, and another man who he'd just been introduced to by the name of Josh Webb.
When's the first time you ever met him?
Tonight.
Oh, this is the very first time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And who told you his name was Josh?
He did.
He says that Angus had been staying with him in his apartment at the Executive Manor over the past couple of weeks, and that they had spent the night drinking with Josh.
I guess it was one of Angus's friends because he showed up at Gomart and he showed up. They've been drinking all day.
Marshall says that they were all at the Gomart, a local convenience store where Marshall's girlfriend was working, when Angus and Josh had an altercation.
At this point, they have a little altercation, right?
Oh, it was more than an altercation.
And you're saying that
Josh wanted to beat his ass, and Angus pulled the gun out, and he told him, he said, I should have seen your face, mom. I said, dude, I said, I don't have no beef with him. I said, I don't even know it.
Marshall says that after seeing the altercation between them, his girlfriend walked out and told them all to leave the area.
Come out and made us all leave.
Okay, so he's like, y'all got to go.
Y'all all there, yeah.
Okay.
Including me.
Well, try to get that. So what, at that point, who left first?
We all three left. Josh was already halfway across the road, and Angus was trying to catch up with him. And just interfering and trying to make people work together to stop.
After leaving the Gomart, Marshall says that they all headed down the street and ended up just outside the Executive Manor, where the murder took place.
So, I left alone. I knew it was going to turn out bad, and I didn't want to be involved. So, as I got around to the apartment, I heard pop. I walked around the corner, and Josh was laying.
Marshall's detailed account was consistent with the evidence police had gathered so far, but detectives felt that there had to be more to the story. They issued a bolo for Angus Moody, who was now the prime suspect and was very likely armed and dangerous. By the next morning, detectives paid a visit to the Gomart, where Marshall claimed the altercation began, to see if they could get access to the store's surveillance footage. At around 1 a.m., a white male can be seen walking through the Gomart parking lot. As the man gets closer to the camera, it becomes clear that it was Josh. He was wearing the same outfit when his body was found, a red shirt and black basketball shorts. He seems to be intoxicated as he walks and keeps looking over his shoulder and walking backwards as if he's watching someone follow him. As he makes his way through the parking lot, someone else can be seen very briefly in the corner who appears to have a verbal exchange with him. Based on Marshall's statement, detectives have reason to believe that this is in fact Angus Moody, but couldn't confirm Marshall's claim that he pulled out his gun. Switching to another camera inside the store, Marshall's girlfriend can be seen standing behind the counter before she walks outside to tell Marshall and Angus to leave. The same man captured on the exterior camera is also captured on this one and fits the description of Angus Moody. Seconds later, someone else appears through the clerk's window. It's very clearly Marshall Ratliff. Everything so far corroborates Marshall's account of what happened, and it's becoming apparent that Angus Moody is likely the killer. Police need to find him and take him off the street as soon as possible. Detectives gathered a list of addresses belonging to all known friends and family members of Angus, and patrol officers were sent to each of those locations. Just outside of his girlfriend's house, Angus was spotted driving down the street and was immediately arrested at gunpoint. He was brought in to be questioned, but police aren't expecting him to come clean right away.
I'm trying to figure out why I'm even here.
Okay. Well, I mean, that would be part of our conversation. Because obviously, I mean, we're here for a reason. Did you witness anything happen tonight? Were you around anything that happened? That would be a reason that detectives would want to talk to you tonight?
At first, Angus acts as if he has no idea why he was brought in for questioning. Detectives, however, were able to get him to admit that he knows Marshall Ratliff and that they were both at the Go-Mart on the night of the murder.
Are you ready yet? Are you ready to get real with me yet or not?
Man.
Because we're at that stage now, we have to make that decision. How would y'all think to go for it?
Actually, me and, Marshall's already at Gold. And me and Dude went to Chiefs to get some more beer.
Okay.
Hanging out downtown, just, drinking and stuff. But, I ain't lying, we did have an altercation and stuff like that. We was having an altercation and stuff. And I knew it was going to escalate. That he was in the room.
I absolutely believe that part.
He admits that there was an altercation, but continues to remain vague about what happened. However, as soon as the detective confronts Angus and accuses him of murdering Josh, his demeanor suddenly changes.
This is not a question of bringing you in here and asking you if you shot this guy, okay? We're beyond that. We know who shot the guy. You did. The fact of the matter is now we
I did.
Yeah, we want to know why.
I didn't shoot him.
We want to know why.
No, I didn't shoot him.
Come on, man.
I put that on everything I love. I did not shoot him, man. I swear to God I did.
Do you really think that's going to hold up?
I did not shoot him. I'm not going to lie about nothing like that.
Detectives expected Angus to deny having anything to do with Josh's murder, but his demeanor has them thinking that there could be more to the story. More footage came in from businesses located along the route between the Go-Mart and the Executive Manor, and they aren't backing up Angus's story. An insurance office on the street leading back to the Executive Manor sent police their CCTV footage from the night of the murder. The footage shows Josh walking back to the apartment building just minutes before he was killed. As he makes his way down the street, he keeps looking over his shoulder and turns around multiple times. A few seconds later, two more people appear who seem to be tailing him. The other two are clearly Marshall and Angus. Another camera located across the street captures a better angle. As Josh is being followed, Angus appears to be holding something in his hands. It's clearly a gun. More specifically, it's a revolver that he appears to be loading with bullets just moments before Josh was murdered. So far, the video evidence is more consistent with what Marshall told police, but Angus remains adamant that it was Marshall who fired the gun. Detectives try a different approach with Angus. They suggest that they have the shooting caught on camera to see how he would respond.
You look very different than the person you were with, right? I mean, I think you could agree with that. You look very different than that person.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be very clear who had done that.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. If it's on video, then I did shoot. I'm comfortable with that. Look, man, I didn't.
About where you've been?
If you got it on video, that makes me comfortable already. I know for a fact I didn't shoot him. Then it's on video.
Well, it is. And not only that, but
Okay,
I mean,
there ain't no video of me shooting.
Angus remains confident that he did not pull the trigger and insists that the video evidence will exonerate him. He's then confronted with the video showing him with the gun in his hand just moments before the murder.
How can we get from that, where you had the gun, obviously, clearly up there you had the gun. Explain to me from that moment to where this guy gets shot. Exactly every detail.
Angus is pushed into a corner and finally starts talking, but he tells a completely different story than the one Marshall had shared earlier.
He comes over and he's sitting over and running his mouth. All of a sudden, I guess the beer kicked in or something, because all of a sudden he started getting mouthy. So that's when I got mad. Dude, him and dude is one who was having the problem, so it was their beef.
But it looks like you having a problem.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, but it was their beef.
Angus claims that the altercation was actually between Marshall and Josh, and that it started when Marshall confronted Josh about the way he was looking at his girlfriend at the Go-Mart.
Hey, she shot.
What shoot him at?
I can't tell if he shot him in the head or in the neck. I can't tell. Because it was so quick. I'm on the side. Okay, they're right there. I'm on the side. I'm right here. You know what I'm saying? They're having their altercation up there and stuff, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just standing right there. And then Marshall walks down and says, "Let me get the gun." And I'm like, man, he's like, man, because I'm about to move this dude. I'm thinking he's going to scare him just for him to move so we can go in the building. I'm so mad about that. If I knew he was going to shoot, I wouldn't have done anything to him.
He says that after loading his gun, he handed it to Marshall, who then shot Josh. He insists that any video evidence police have will back up his claim. His story is plausible, but there's only one way for police to know for sure who's lying and who's telling the truth. The CCTV footage from the Executive Manor finally comes in, and detectives are hoping it will provide the final piece of the puzzle. The camera is located just past the entrance to the Executive Manor and is pointed at the inside of the second door. Because Marshall and Angus both entered the building right after the shooting, it should show which of them was holding the gun immediately after Josh was killed. Just moments after the shooting, both Marshall and Angus can be seen rushing into the building. Marshall clearly has the gun in his hand. He leans back and hands it to Angus before they both get on the elevator and go up to their apartment. This 2-second video clip just flipped the case over its head. It's now become clear that Marshall was in fact the one who shot and killed Josh. The star witness in this murder investigation has just become the prime suspect. Marshall was brought back in to be confronted with this new evidence.
There's some several things that we've actually come across since the last time we talked to you that don't exactly jive with what you told us. That's why I need you to tell me what.
I'm trying to understand what you're sitting here telling me.
Okay. Well, the part where the shot is fired, because we talked about that, and you told me a very detailed story about that, right?
Yes, that's all the truth there.
Well, that doesn't match what we're seeing with our own eyes. That's the problem.
As soon as the interview begins, detectives sense that Marshall is visibly nervous and agitated. He still has no idea what evidence police have against him at this point, but he knows that it isn't looking good for him.
I'm asking you to tell me what happened exactly, really, what happened.
I'm not understanding what you're asking me. You got to be.
Well, you didn't mention to me that you had that gun.
That was not my gun.
I didn't say it was.
So you're telling me I shot?
You did shoot it. The question is why? What I need to know is what the hell caused Marshall that I know that wouldn't normally do that to do that. It had to be something this guy did. So what did he do?
This is the moment when Marshall realizes that his whole life is about to change.
He shows up. What did he say to you that comes?
Nothing. I just didn't. I told him, I said, Josh, I said, I don't want to hear. I just pointed at him. I didn't mean for it to go off.
Okay, but
That I really didn't mean to.
I get that. But I mean, you know when you pull the trigger of a gun, it goes off, right? I'm trying to figure out what happened in Marshall's head. All of a sudden make you shoot.
I mean, the way you looked at my old lady tonight, I didn't like that.
You didn't like the way he was looking at her?
No.
Okay. Did he say anything to her?
No.
Marshall finally admits what actually happened that night. After confronting Josh outside of the Go Mart for looking at his girlfriend, Marshall followed him back to the apartment building along with Angus, who loaded his gun along the way. By the time they reached the building, Angus handed his gun to Marshall, who then walked up to Josh and shot him dead. As they both rushed into the building, Marshall handed Angus back his gun, and they both went back up to their apartment. Within a matter of minutes, Marshall walked into the police station claiming to be a witness and told police everything that happened that night, except he substituted Angus for himself. Fearing the consequences for his actions, Marshall did everything in his power to pin the murder on his friend and roommate. Had it not been for the last 2-second video clip, he may have very well gotten away with murder and would have probably taken the witness stand to testify against his friend in court. Angus Moody was charged with accessory to murder and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Marshall Ratliff pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was handed the maximum sentence of 40 years in prison. He will be eligible for release in his late 60s.